Emotions are a natural part of being human, and they offer us essential insights into our experiences, desires, and reactions. However, many of us tend to approach our emotions with resistance or avoidance, fearing that if we allow ourselves to feel deeply, we will lose control or become overwhelmed. But the truth is that mastering your emotions is not about suppressing or ignoring them. Rather, it is about embracing them with awareness and understanding so that we can respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. When we suppress our emotions, we are in effect denying an important part of ourselves. It is like trying to hold back a wave of water with a wall. Eventually, the pressure builds up and the wall will crack, leading to an even greater outburst. Similarly, when we bottle up our feelings, they have a way of surfacing at the most inopportune moments, often causing greater harm than if we had addressed them in the first place. Whether it's frustration, sadness, anger, or fear, trying to push these emotions aside only delays the inevitable need for resolution. The more we resist, the more powerful the emotion becomes, and the more we feel like we're at the mercy of it. On the other hand, embracing our emotions means allowing ourselves to feel them fully without judgment or fear. This doesn't mean that we should let our emotions run wild or dominate every aspect of our lives. Instead, it means recognizing that emotions are signals. They are providing us with information that can help us make better choices and navigate life with more clarity. Each emotion, whether positive or negative, is an opportunity to learn something about ourselves. By embracing our emotions, we invite that learning into our lives and use it as a tool for personal growth. Take, for example, the emotion of fear. Fear often gets a bad rap as something to avoid at all costs. We think of fear as a weakness or as something that holds us back from achieving our goals. But fear is, in fact, an incredibly useful emotion. It alerts us to potential danger or discomfort and pushes us to take action in situations where we need to protect ourselves or proceed with caution. However, when we resist fear or let it control us, we may avoid opportunities, avoid confrontation, or avoid taking risks that could lead to growth. By embracing fear, we give ourselves the chance to evaluate whether the threat is real or imagined, and we can choose how to respond in a way that empowers us. Sadness and grief are emotions that many of us shy away from, believing that they are weaknesses or signs of failure. We may avoid crying, push through pain, or tell ourselves that we should be over it by now. But sadness, much like fear, serves a crucial role in our emotional landscape. It allows us to process loss, to heal, and to acknowledge that something important to us has changed. Embracing sadness does not mean wallowing in it. It simply means allowing ourselves to feel the pain and work through it at our own pace. In doing so, we give ourselves permission to heal and to emerge stronger on the other side. When we allow ourselves to feel sadness fully, we create space for joy and peace to return. Anger, too, is an emotion that is often seen as negative or destructive. We may suppress it out of fear that expressing anger will lead to conflict or cause us to appear out of control. However, anger can be a powerful motivator for change. It signals to us when our boundaries have been crossed or when something is not right. Embracing anger means recognizing the underlying cause of it and using that energy to take constructive action. Is this the right anger or behavior? Behavior with which there is no resolution. I believe it is both necessary and necessary. Rather than letting anger boil over into outbursts or resentment, we can channel it into conversations that allow us to express our needs and assert our boundaries with respect and clarity. By embracing anger, we shift our focus from the destructive potential of the emotion to its capacity for empowerment and positive change. In embracing our emotions, we also allow ourselves the opportunity to become more self-aware. When we acknowledge what we are feeling, we are able to better understand the root causes of those emotions. For example, if we are feeling anxious, we can pause and ask ourselves, what is it that I'm really afraid of? Is this fear based on reality, or is it something I've imagined? What can I do to address it? It isn't bono pe bono. By getting curious about our emotions instead of avoiding them, we begin to uncover the deeper thoughts and beliefs that are driving our emotional reaction. This process of embracing emotions is not always easy, and it requires patience and practice. It involves creating a safe space for ourselves to feel without judgment. It requires recognizing that all emotions, both the pleasant and unpleasant ones, are valid, and that we do not need to suppress or deny them in order to be strong or in control. We are, after all, human beings, and our emotional experiences are a testament to the richness and complexity of our lives. Emotions are not something to be feared, but rather something to be understood and integrated into our daily lives. The act of embracing our emotions also opens the door to greater emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our emotions, as well as the emotions of others. It is an essential skill for navigating relationships, making thoughtful decisions, and leading a fulfilling life. When we embrace our emotions, we not only gain insight into ourselves, but we also develop a deeper understanding of the emotions of those around us. This empathy allows us to respond to others with kindness, compassion, and sensitivity, fostering stronger and more meaningful connections. Embracing our emotions gives us the freedom to live authentically. We stop hiding behind facades or pretending that we are always fine. Instead, we show up in the world as our true selves, with all of our vulnerabilities, strengths, and complexities. We allow ourselves to feel deeply, and in doing so, we create space for greater joy, peace, and self-acceptance. When we embrace our emotions, we stop allowing them to control us, and we start living with the power and presence that comes from being fully in tune with our inner world. Living in the present moment is perhaps one of the most powerful yet overlooked practices in our fast-paced, often chaotic lives. We are constantly pulled in different directions by work, by social media, by expectations from others, and by the relentless pursuit of future goals. In this whirlwind of activity, it's easy to forget that the present is the only time we truly have. Our minds are often trapped in the past, replaying events that have already occurred, or racing ahead to anticipate the future, trying to control outcomes that have yet to unfold. In doing so, we miss the richness of the moment we are currently experiencing. The truth is, no matter how much we worry about the future or ruminate on the past, we cannot change either of them. The past is gone and the future is uncertain. Yet we spend so much time dwelling on what has already happened or what might happen, believing that we can somehow control these things. We create scenarios in our minds about the what-ifs and what could-bes, and in doing so, we deny ourselves the opportunity to experience life as it is happening right now. By living in the present moment, we free ourselves from the burden of these endless cycles of overthinking and worrying. Being present is not about ignoring the future or disregarding the past altogether. It's about finding balance. It's about learning to acknowledge the lessons of the past, planning for the future, but not allowing them to overshadow the here and now. When we are truly present, we make conscious decisions, grounded in reality, not in anxiety or fear of what might be. We let go of the desire to control every aspect of life, knowing that some things are simply beyond our reach. One of the greatest obstacles to living in the present moment is our attachment to our thoughts. Our minds are constantly churning with ideas, memories, fears, and desires, we believe that these thoughts are who we are, that they define us, or worse, that we have no power over them. But the truth is, our thoughts do not define us. They are simply thoughts. They come and go, and they have no more power than we give them. The more we attach ourselves to every passing thought, the more we create a sense of urgency or crisis that doesn't really exist. We create stories in our minds that fuel stress and anxiety, and we lose sight of the peaceful present moment. Living in the present requires a conscious decision to disconnect from this constant mental chatter. It means learning to observe our thoughts without judgment and not letting them take control of our emotions or actions. One of the most effective ways to do this is through mindfulness, a practice that encourages us to focus on the present moment without distraction. When we engage in mindfulness, we bring our full attention to what is happening around us, whether it's the simple act of breathing, eating, walking, or engaging in a conversation. By focusing on the details of the present experience, we cultivate a sense of awareness and appreciation that quiets the noise of our mind. Mindfulness teaches us that it's okay not to have all the answers or to know what comes next. We don't need to control every aspect of our lives. In fact, when we let go of the need to control, we allow ourselves to flow with life rather than resist it. We begin to trust that whatever comes next, we have the resilience and strength to handle it. This trust in the present moment helps us to feel more grounded and less overwhelmed by the unknown. Living in the present also helps us to embrace the concept of impermanence. Nothing in life stays the same forever. Moments pass, seasons change, and life moves forward, regardless of our attachment to certain outcomes or expectations. When we accept the impermanence of life, we learn to savor each moment as it is, without clinging to it or wishing it were different. The desire for things to always remain the same, or the longing for a future that we've imagined, only takes us away from the present. We miss the beauty of the moment when we are focused on what was or what will be. But when we embrace impermanence, we allow ourselves to be fully engaged in whatever is happening right now, knowing that it is fleeting and precious. The present moment also offers us an opportunity to cultivate gratitude. When we focus on what we have right now, rather than what we lack or what we wish we could have, we open ourselves to a deeper sense of appreciation. Gratitude shifts our perspective and helps us recognize the abundance in our lives, even in the smallest of things. Whether it's the warmth of the sun on our skin, the comfort of a good conversation, or the simple pleasure of a hot cup of tea, the present moment is filled with countless blessings that we often overlook when we're lost in thoughts about the past or future. By living in the present, we also cultivate greater emotional resilience. Life will always present challenges. This is an inevitable part of the human experience. But when we are able to stay rooted in the present moment, we can face these challenges with more clarity and less emotional turmoil. We don't get caught up in worrying about what might happen or rehashing past mistakes. Instead, we meet the situation at hand with the calm and confidence that comes from being fully present and aware. This allows us to respond to difficulties with a clear mind and a steady heart rather than reacting impulsively out of fear or stress. In relationships, living in the present is essential. How many times have we been in a conversation but weren't really listening? Our minds were elsewhere, thinking about something we had to do later or a disagreement we had earlier in the day. When we are not present with others, we miss the opportunity to connect on a deeper level, to truly hear and understand them. Being present in our relationships means giving our full attention to the other person, showing empathy, and being engaged in the moment. This deepens trust and connection, and it fosters a sense of respect and mutual understanding. Perfectionism is an elusive and powerful force that often dictates how we approach our goals, relationships, and even our own sense of self-worth. We live in a world where the pursuit of perfection is often glorified, with social media and societal expectations continuing continuously pushing us to present the flawless versions of our lives. We are constantly bombarded by images of perfection, perfect bodies, perfect homes, perfect careers, perfect relationships. It can be easy to believe that achieving perfection is the ultimate goal, and anything less than flawless is somehow a failure. But the reality is that perfection is not only unattainable, but it is also an unnecessary and counterproductive pursuit that robs us of peace, creativity, and joy. When we place the expectation of perfection on ourselves, we are setting an impossible standard. We are essentially telling ourselves that nothing short of flawless is acceptable, which creates an environment of constant dissatisfaction and frustration. The truth is, perfection is subjective. It's a concept that shifts depending on who you ask and when you ask them. What one person might consider perfect, another might find lacking. Therefore, chasing perfection is like trying to hit a moving target. No matter how hard we strive, we can never truly arrive at perfection. This constant pursuit leaves us in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction, always feeling like we are falling short, even when we are making significant progress. Perfectionism often prevents us from taking action in the first place. We become so consumed with the idea of getting it exactly right that we delay, procrastinate, or even avoid tasks altogether. The fear of making mistakes or failing in some way becomes paralyzing. We wait for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect set of circumstances to align before we take any step forward. But waiting for perfection can lead to inaction, which ultimately keeps us stuck. Life does not wait for perfect conditions to unfold. It is messy, unpredictable, and ever-changing. If we only allow ourselves to act when everything is perfectly in place, we will never take the first step and we will never progress. In relationships, the desire for perfection can lead to unrealistic expectations of ourselves and others. We may expect our partners, friends, or family members to behave in certain ways or meet certain standards, all while believing that we must do the same. But relationships are inherently imperfect. They require vulnerability, compromise, and understanding. When we expect perfection, we set ourselves and others up for disappointment. We forget that flaws, mistakes, and imperfections are what make us human, and it is through our imperfections that we connect with others on a deeper level. The desire for perfection can prevent us from accepting ourselves and others as we truly are, and it can create unnecessary tension and disconnection in our relationships. The problem with perfectionism is that it keeps us focused on what is lacking rather than what is already good. We become so focused on the next goal or the next achievement that we forget to appreciate where we are right now. We get caught in the trap of constantly striving for the future without ever pausing to celebrate the progress we have already made. Perfectionism prevents us from enjoying the present moment because we are always looking ahead to something better, something more, something perfect. This creates a cycle of dissatisfaction that can prevent us from experiencing true contentment in our lives. Perfectionism stifles creativity and growth. When we are obsessed with making everything perfect, we limit ourselves to only taking actions that feel safe and controlled. We become afraid of making mistakes or failing, and in doing so, we restrict our ability to take risks or try new things. Creativity thrives on experimentation, trial, and error. It is in the process of trying, failing, learning, and adapting that we make new discoveries and grow. Perfectionism closes off this creative process because it demands that we get everything right the first time. This not only limits our potential, but also prevents us from tapping into the full scope of our capabilities. The pursuit of perfection can also negatively affect our mental health. When we constantly strive to be perfect, we are constantly in a state of stress and anxiety. The pressure to live up to impossible standards leads to feelings of inadequacy, self-criticism, and burnout. We begin to internalize the belief that we are only worthy or valuable if we achieve perfection, which ultimately leads to a diminished sense of self-worth. This toxic mindset creates a cycle of stress and self-judgment, which can take a toll on our emotional well-being and overall happiness. So, how do we break free from the trap of perfectionism? The first step is to recognize that perfection is not the goal, it is progress. Instead of focusing on being perfect, we can shift our mindset to focus on growth and learning. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. By embracing the idea that we are all works in progress, we allow ourselves the space to make mistakes, to learn from them, and to grow stronger as a result. Perfectionism tells us that we must be flawless at all times. Growth tells us that it's okay to be imperfect and to embrace the process of becoming. Another important step in breaking free from perfectionism is to practice self-compassion. Perfectionism often thrives on self-criticism and harsh judgment. But when we treat ourselves with kindness and understanding, we can let go of the unrealistic demands we place on ourselves. It's important to acknowledge that we are human and that making mistakes is part of being human. We don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love, success, or happiness. In fact, it's our imperfections that make us unique and relatable to others. Self-compassion allows us to be gentle with ourselves, especially when we fall short of our own expectation. It's also crucial to embrace the idea that imperfection is not something to fear, it is something to celebrate. The things that make us imperfect are often the very things that make us interesting, resilient, and relatable. Our flaws are a part of our story and they contribute to our character and growth. Instead of hiding our imperfections, we can embrace them as a source of strength. By letting go of the need to be perfect, we open ourselves up to the possibility of true connection, creativity, and fulfillment. We need to redefine success. Success is not about being flawless. It is about progress, effort, and authenticity. Success is about showing up, taking risks, and learning from every experience, regardless of the outcome. When we redefine success in this way, we take the pressure off ourselves to be perfect, and we allow ourselves to focus on the journey rather than the destination. Success is not a destination. It is a continuous process of growth, and there is beauty in every step along the way. Letting go of control can be one of the most freeing yet difficult things we can do. We often believe that if we just have enough control over our circumstances, we can avoid pain, disappointment, and failure. Control becomes a shield that we use to protect ourselves from life's uncertainties. But the reality is that control is an illusion. The more we try to control every aspect of our lives, the more we realize how little power we actually have over the larger forces that shape our experiences. Life is unpredictable, ever-changing, and full of surprises. And the more we attempt to grip onto control, the more we find ourselves in a constant state of stress and anxiety. When we let go of the need to control everything, we open ourselves to freedom. Freedom from the pressure of perfection, freedom from the anxiety of anticipating every possible outcome, and freedom from the exhaustion of trying to manage things that are ultimately beyond our reach. Letting go of control doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or giving up on our goals. Instead, it means recognizing that we don't need to micromanage every detail of our lives or try to predict every possibility in order to feel safe or secure. It means acknowledging that some things are simply out of our hands, and that's okay. We don't have to have all the answers, and we don't have to control everything in order to be happy or successful. Letting go of control is about learning to trust. Trust in ourselves, in others, and in the flow of life. It's trusting that things will unfold as they are meant to, even if we can't always see how or why. Trusting that we have the inner resources to navigate whatever challenges come our way, and that we can adapt and grow through any experience. When we let go of control, we allow ourselves to experience life as it is, rather than trying to force it into a predetermined mold. We open ourselves up to the possibility of growth, transformation, and unexpected joy. One of the most common areas where we try to maintain control is in our relationships. We may try to control how others behave, how they perceive us, or how they react to our actions. We may become overly attached to the idea of having a perfect relationship, one that is always smooth and harmonious. But this kind of control is damaging because it places an unrealistic burden on both ourselves and the other person. No relationship is perfect. There will always be misunderstandings, disagreements, and moments of tension. Trying to control every aspect of a relationship prevents us from experiencing true connection and intimacy. It makes us afraid of being vulnerable or authentic because we fear that showing our true selves will cause conflict or push others away. But when we let go of the need to control, we allow ourselves to be real and we allow others to do the same. The more perfect we are, the more perfect a relationship can be. And then no one is perfect, even you, the parent. The moment we let go of the need to control and we allow ourselves to be real, we accept the ebb and flow of relationships and we embrace the imperfections that make them meaningful. In our careers and ambitions, we also tend to hold on to control with a tight grip. We set rigid goals, create strict timelines, and become attached to specific outcomes. We believe that if we work hard enough and control every step of the process, we can guarantee success. However, this mentality often leads to burnout, disappointment, and frustration. Life doesn't always go according to plan, and the path to success is rarely linear. Sometimes opportunities arise unexpectedly or obstacles force us to take a detour. When we try to control everything, we miss the chance to be flexible, to adjust our course, and to seize new possibilities. Letting go of control in our careers means being open to new opportunities, being willing to pivot when things don't go as planned, and trusting that the journey itself holds value, even if it doesn't look exactly how we imagined it would. Fear is another area where control manifests itself. We fear what we cannot predict or understand, and in an attempt to protect ourselves from this fear, we try to control every situation. But fear thrives on control. The more we try to control our fears, the more power we give them. When we let go of control, we stop avoiding fear and instead face it head on. We acknowledge it, understand it, and move through it, knowing that fear is just a feeling, not something that defines us or dictates our actions. Letting go of control in the face of fear allows us to live more courageously, to take risks, and to embrace uncertainty with confidence. Sometimes we try to control our emotions, thinking that if we can suppress them or manage them perfectly, we'll avoid vulnerability or discomfort. We bottle up our feelings, believing that if we don't express them, we can maintain control over how others see us and how we see ourselves. But in doing so, we create an inner tension that only builds over time. Emotions are not meant to be controlled. They are meant to be felt. When we allow ourselves to experience our emotions fully, without judgment or fear, we release their hold on us. Letting go of the need to control our emotions doesn't mean being overwhelmed by them. It means acknowledging them and allowing them to move through us, knowing that they are temporary and part of our human experience.